What is good, my nasty ass wrestlers? If you guys don't know me, this is my wrestling channel. My name's Isaac. I post a new video every day, every day. No stop, the grind never stops here. You know, you can always check me out every day for a new wrestling related video. But as you can tell by the title of my video, this is why wrestlers have the best base to begin fighting. Alright, if you guys don't know me, I did boxing, then jiu-jitsu, then kickboxing, and then wrestling for another 5 years after I did all of those. Right, so I started in middle school, and then in high school I started wrestling, but I was still doing jiu-jitsu. And then I stopped and I just continued wrestling, and now I'm trying to get into fighting. Like, these are just some of the things that I have witnessed, like myself, going from boxing and jiu-jitsu to wrestling, okay? And why wrestling is the best system. So first things first is, for wrestling, the training system works, right? And we know this works because there is such a high amount of high-level athletes, all right? And they use the same training system, drilling, live wrestling, the same technique, you know what I mean? And it, like, wrestling has been going on for so long that it is so refined. Jiu-jitsu just hasn't had enough time to build and grow as a sport, right? This is a relatively new sport. It's been around since like 1990. So when you go into a practice, your drilling is, it's like, all right, everybody go on your own, drill this like 3 times. You know what I mean? They're not drilling intensity. They're not drilling speed. They're not drilling like strength. They're only drilling technique. They're only focusing on technique for the jiu-jitsu schools that I've been to. They focus on technique and live rolling because that's what's fun. And people are paying to go to their school. Whereas in wrestling, you go to school and there's a wrestling program, right? And you have to go every single day or else you lose your spot. Completely different environment, completely different like atmosphere, you know what I mean? In wrestling, there is constant competition, right? Because you want to be varsity. You want to be varsity. In jiu-jitsu, you pay to get into the tournament. Like, it's like anybody can go into a jiu-jitsu tournament. In wrestling, you have to beat the best wrestler in the room. You have to be the best wrestler in that weight in the room. So naturally, there's just more competition in wrestling. And this brings me into number 2. Because jiu-jitsu is such a new sport, the tournaments aren't filled with as many people. You know what I mean? And boxing, if you're an active boxer, you're fighting twice a year. That does a toll on you, like a fucking toll. If you want to take my advice, I'd say save striking for the end. Like, practice striking, of course, but save the actual competition part of it for like when you want to do MMA. You know what I mean? Because literally taking those knocks to the head f***s you up. It f***s you up. People who have been doing striking for like years and just constantly, like Muay Thai fighters that have over 100 fights, you can see it in their face. Those dudes are battered. They look terrible a lot of the time, right? And I'm not saying wrestlers don't look terrible sometimes, because they go through their own abuse too. But like, it's just like with wrestling, it's not direct impact to the head, so it's not as damaging. Compared to fighting twice a year to having a tournament readily available every weekend and having a possibility of between like 5 and 8 matches, you know what I mean? Like, getting 8 matches in a weekend is not anything like surprising, you know what I mean? Even in the off season. If you go to local tournaments, at least I'm in Florida, so like the local tournaments for me here, they're packed with kids. There's a ton of kids, right? And I'm sure it's the same like many other states. You probably just have to go to like the nearest city or like somewhere. But like the point is that there are tournaments available. In jiu-jitsu, you go to Orlando, which is like a 2-hour drive for me, and you get one other person that is in your same skill and weight bracket. You know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous. There isn't enough competition for people to like grind like they should. You know what I mean? Or number 3, part 3. There is a much higher volume of practice, right? Unless you're paying someone a shit ton of money, then you aren't gonna get a 7-day-a-week practice. And to find someone that gives you a 7-day-a-week hard practice is even harder, because we all know that hard practices are what make you good. Like, going through challenging things is what makes you a better fighter. And in jiu-jitsu and boxing, there just isn't enough of that. Like, there's a ton of boxers and there's a ton of skilled boxers, don't get me wrong. There's a ton of skilled jiu-jitsu artists, don't get me wrong. But in a high school, you can have 25 black belts, right? Literally black belts, kids who have been wrestling since they were 4. Boxing is too, like, there's too much damage for you to have that. And in jiu-jitsu, there just hasn't been enough time. So if you start when you're younger, right? Like to you kids in middle school and high school, you can become very skilled in wrestling in just a few years, right? And in high school, it's free. It's completely free. There's a ton of competition and there's a ton of hard work, right? There's a million resources, right? There's camps, clinics, new coaches, there's interviews with Olympians, there's tons of Olympians. Like, I feel like every Olympian has their own camp. They have their own team as well. Number 4, this brings me to number 4. This isn't as much with jiu-jitsu, but with boxing. There's like really a set of like 8 things that can happen. You know what I mean? Like, he throws either regular southpaw, he throws a straight left or a straight right, a right jab or a left jab, a right hook or a left hook, a right uppercut or a left uppercut. You block with both hands. You got these giant mittens. There isn't like, it's like a Rubik's Cube with like 4 pieces, you know what I mean? Like, it's pretty, like, they get really good at those 4 pieces. Once you move on to the bigger Rubik's Cube, like, there isn't shit that helps you. There isn't shit that helps you with the old one, right? Okay, I can fix this like easy little Rubik's Cube and I can get super fast at it, and like me in this competition with other people who have these tiny little Rubik's Cubes, we can do it super fast, right? But what happens when you start training boxing since you were a kid, right? You have really like good upper body, strong back, but like your movements are completely unnatural. Completely unnatural. In wrestling, you're taught to go through the path of least resistance and to create your own path of least resistance. You know what I mean? So it's very creative. You use leverage in every, like, you use your arms, your elbows, your shoulders, your hips, your stomach, everything. Your chest, your legs, your feet, your ankles, your knees, everything. You use every part of your body. So it's all very functional. You know what I mean? It's not like you're learning things that wouldn't work in real life, right? I feel like boxing and jiu-jitsu should supplement your wrestling, okay? And that's coming from someone who started with jiu-jitsu and boxing. But all right, so the point I was trying to make with the boxing only having like a few things, wrestling is so complicated and there's so many different scenarios that you learn how to be coached and you learn how to learn yourself. You learn how to teach yourself things in the moment, you know what I mean? You learn how to be creative. In boxing, like, all right, I love boxing as a sport. I watch it, I'm a fan, you know what I mean? But like, something that I personally noticed is with boxing, it's more of a science than an art. They know exactly when that right comes. When they see that shoulder flinch, it's 2 degrees to this way. I slip the hook, I come back with a straight left. You know what I mean? It's like a science to them. It's like fucking math. Whereas in wrestling, it's like, all right, what the f is this dude doing? Like, he's putting pressure, I think I go, whoa, ah! Like, you know what I mean? Oh, I'm losing this, ah, I gotta go for something, like. And in boxing, it's more, the consequences are more immediate, right? It's like that, you're hit, right? In wrestling, it takes a couple seconds to take someone down. And it's a fight. It's like, you know what I mean? It's hard. It's really hard. This brings me into the next thing, that getting comfortable with competition and getting comfortable with getting your face pushed in and f***ed up is one of the most valuable things that wrestling can teach you, because it gives you this comfort when you're going into a fight. Like, if you get hit in the face, like, this is not the first time someone's been rough with you. This is not the first time that you have had to attack someone. For a lot of people coming from jiu-jitsu, they have never had that feeling of somebody just trying to kill them. They've never had that pressure of someone just like coming at them like a freight train, just like, I'm about to fuck you up, bitch. Like, you have no clue what the fuck is going on right now. I'm going 100 miles an hour and I